Welcome to this program where we will be having a discussion with one of our gifted sons of the soil, and that is Mr. Dennis Richards. Today we are going to be discussing the importance of the arts to national development. Mr. Richards has contributed significantly to the arts here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and by extension to our national development here in St. Kitts and Nevis. He is a painter, he's a sculptor, he's a graphic artist, and he's a musician. That is quite a lot. Mr. Richards, welcome.
Thank you for having me as well.
Good. Now, you have made quite a valuable or invaluable contribution to the arts over the years in St. Kitts and Nevis. But before we get into your contribution, I want us to speak a little bit about the arts and the importance of the arts in our curriculum, our education curriculum, and the importance of the arts in terms of how it develops the human person, the importance of the arts in terms of how it develops the nation, national development.
Thank you. When you look at it, you find that, let's look at arts. What would St. Kitts be? I'm not going to even think about what the world would be. What would St. Kitts be without art? Your tie, the chains you have on, everything around you. Think about it. So it's very important. The arts are very important. And I wish we would take a step and concentrate at that being the foundation. What would Carnival be without the arts? Think about it. Everything that we do and we have in our homes reflects the art. So we need to start preparing our people to go that way. Tourism is our main money income earner at this point. What does the tourist want to see? It can't be sand and sea, because the other islands have much more beautiful beaches than we have. So you have to think about the human resources, the people. If you empower the people, each one of us has a different way of thinking. We're individuals. If I give you all these things that we have on the desk and I ask you to arrange it, you're going to arrange it differently than I'm going to arrange it, because we're different, but same elements, but arranged differently. Let's look at Carnival. If you take the arts into the schools, you can now develop where you have teaching the students to dance, which is the performing arts. You can teach them to make their own costumes, which become the visual arts. You can teach them percussion drumming, which is the basic roots of music, and they can create their own music for the carnival parade. So they don't have to listen to what the grown-ups are playing, because they've been doing that from the start. They're developing that whole thing. Art, it helps you to organize yourself. It helps you to be creative. It helps you. One of the things that annoys me is that when parents tell their students, their kids, not to get involved in the arts because they show the academic ability. But we need smart. Who you think designed the camera? An illiterate artist?
Of course not.
It was a brilliant artist, a very academically inclined artist, but he or she were into the arts. If you look at most of the people that gain success, they've had an art background. But we still not going that way. I don't know why.
One of the things that amazes me about the arts or artists is that an artist can see the extraordinary in the ordinary. I may see something and think it's a piece of junk, but yet the artist has that eye, the artist's eye, to see something more than junk and to take that junk and to make something creative of it. For example, let us look at the crowns of a bottle. I throw it away, but yet the artists take those crowns, collect those crowns, and can fashion those crowns into a work of art.
Did you know we used to use those same crowns as what we used to call spinners? You know what spinners are?
No, tell me.
Spinners is, we used to flatten the crowns, put two holes, like buttonholes, put a thread through it, and we used to have a fight. It spins, because you twirl it around, where it gets to that twisted part, and then it starts to go by itself.
Yes.
And we used to have the fight. You have your spinner and I have my spinner. We go like that. But what I'm saying, you're right. Take the ordinary thing and make an extraordinary thing out of it.
Yes.
We do that all the time.
And then you spoke about tourism. And tourism is basically at the moment the mainstay of our economy. And really and truly, our tourism product is enhanced by the arts. Or I cannot even perceive of our tourism product without the arts. And so therefore, you know, you spoke about the different type of arts as well. We have the literary arts, we have the visual arts, we have the culinary arts, and what other arts do we have? We have the performing arts.
That is correct.
And all of these
are
intertwined and areas in which our people can grow, can develop, can flourish, can contribute, can use,
create a product.
The God-given talent. I think we had this discussion before. You know, I call you Dennis. We are colleagues, Dennis.
That is correct.
That God has given to each person
to survive.
A talent
to survive.
To survive.
If you have the faith and you trust in Him, it would happen. It may not happen when you want it or you think it should happen, but it will happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing it as my life progresses. I'm a witness to that.
Right. And the performing arts. When we think about the performing arts, we think about dance. We think about what else can we think
the
about?
Dance. Mm-hmm. Now the dance, you have to be clothed. So you have to have a costume. And that's where the visual arts comes in. See, they're correlated.
They're correlated.
You can't use one without the other. They're correlated. Even when you go to the literary arts, when they write, you could visualize things, but at the same time, the cover of the books are visual.
Yeah, we can think about singing, dancing. We can think about drama in terms of the performing arts.
Yeah.
And all of those things are somehow meant to tell a story. It is not just somebody dancing, but our movements.
The visual impact.
Our movements communicate.
Exactly.
It is what we call body movement, body language. It communicates. Whenever we sing, that too communicates something.
Yeah.
And it's all about the arts and communication. The arts actually help us to communicate sometimes what is difficult to communicate with words.
With words.
What we can't communicate with words, we can communicate with a dance.
I remember students that we all don't learn the same way. So you have to be creative. Some people, visually, you're talking to them, but they cannot conceive what you're saying. You have a visual representation of what you're saying there. They can see it, and they can see everything about it. They can interpret it for themselves. So, even the teachers, I really believe that they should have a basic course in art, because a lot of kids learn from the hands-on material, the touching and the making. If I tell you to learn the rule, you want to know why you need to learn the rule. Now, if I give you a project that encompasses using the rule, something clicks and you take more to it because you want to finish this project. But the project calls for measurements, so you have to learn how to measure. So you have a reason why you're going to be doing this thing.
Right. And so therefore the arts really
Your basic.
the arts make it, how must I put this? It gives an opening for creativity.
And we all are creative.
We all are creative. We can create. In fact, in the book of Genesis, God created man, God created woman. But God is creator. Man and woman are co-creators. So we can create, we can procreate, we can co-create, and we can procreate. So you were right when you said that God has given each person a talent.
I'm only a vessel or a medium for him to show you what's available and what he wants to do. I'm just doing his work, to be honest with you. Because when I see the things that I do, I know it's not me. Really, I'm just being used to do these things.
Another thing I think the art teaches, for example, is that of discipline. You have to be disciplined. And the arts teach people how to be disciplined. And young people who are involved in the arts, it teaches them discipline. There has to be some discipline. I always admire, Dennis, the sculptor. They have to spend
Time
hours
consuming,
and
time
time
consuming.
and all of that. That can only come with discipline. The artist, and we'll share some of your experience because you're all of these things. The artist who has to sit there and paint, the time,
The techniques,
the technique, the attention to detail,
emotions.
the emotions. In fact, we all have heard about the story of Michelangelo, who painted the Sistine Chapel in Rome. He spent hours at
looking
his
up.
back
You ever try painting your ceiling?
looking up. But one of the things they said about him is that he was very moody.
Whatever it was. But artists are. You see, I tell people that wants to do, that I know, do work, I tell them, listen, what you need to do is have all the equipment there. So when that mood is there, you just could, because if the mood is there and you have to go and look for things, it kills that.
Right. And so sometimes you get this inspiration, don't you?
And you need to do it there.
And you need to do it right there.
Or do something that you can come back to it when the mood changes, when you get back into that mood that you remember. And that's what a lot of musicians does too.
So artists are in touch with their moods.
Moods. It's very, yeah. They say we are very moody people.
Mood is not something that is negative.
No. You know, when I was living in the States, and when I realized what I wanted to get into, I said, I need to come to St. Kitts where it's less distracted. See, it's too many things happening in the States, so I needed to come here because here's just an extension, really.
Yes.
But it's a cool extension.
Right.
And that's one of, there's many reasons, but that's one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to do
Okay,
it.
good. And then the arts give people expression. Expression. It liberates you.
Yeah.
Makes you express what you feel, your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts,
You let it out. You see
your
visually.
opinions. And for those who do it, whether in dance or song, for those who do it in poetry, beautiful poetry,
Stories,
and beautiful prose,
Pin-
and writers,
painting pictures by words,
they're painting pictures
from words.
with words.
Yeah.
The imagination.
You close your eyes and you see a whole different picture, what they say. Sometimes when we're teaching the kids how to critique, I tell them, listen, what you need to do is to pretend that you're speaking to someone that's blind. They don't know what it is. You have to be descriptive to be able to tell the story or the picture, describe the picture to a blind person, and then you would have been on your way.
They're able to capture and to see things that others don't see. And they bring something that has no life,
to life.
or what we think has no life,
To life.
to life. And we say, but I never saw it in that way. I never realized it in that way. They are truly amazing people. I admire it.
Because you see, like again, I couldn't do what you're doing. And what you're doing, I mean, I could do it, but not as effectively as you're doing it. This way you can't do what I do as effectively as I do it. Because like I tell you, each one of us are individuals and we're given a thing. If you just work that and work it to the best of your ability, maybe success follows.
Right.
Next thing I want to ask you, Mr. Williams. It sounds like I'm an interviewer.
Yes. I should be switching roles here.
Well, after you finish doing what you're doing, you have a backup as a hobby that you would like to do? You ever thought about it?
I have a hobby.
You have a hobby?
I like to sing.
There you go. I always tell grown-ups, you need to have a backup. And this art is a good backup because it relaxes you.
It relieves stress.
It relieves stress. Then you get to see what you have produced, what's in your inner soul. And it's you. I have a sister now that just started to do these things. And she's amazed and she's feeling so much different when she see what she's done and people tell her how nice they are. Because I know she has the talent.
Yes.
But, you know, some of us afraid to go there or we don't have the time to go there, but
Right.
I'm fortunate.
The other thing that the arts do is that they capture history.
You got it.
They capture history.
They capture history.
Because the arts really cannot be done without a context. It's the historical context. And most people who are in the arts, in a particular time, in a particular historical context, are giving expression to what is currently happening.
Well, what happened in
And then what
Egypt-
happens is that you have to have it there for posterity. So that when your children look back and the next generation comes around, there is something. I always say, the Caribbean has a lot of talented people, gifted. Where are our writers? Why are there not more writers? Why do we have to rely on books to come from Europe and North America? Are they the only ones who can write? We have some writers, and we have some very good ones. But I ask the question, why it is there are not more?
Writers.
Why it is that there are not more poets? We've produced some outstanding ones in the literary arts. We can think of Derek Walcott, Nobel laureate, St. Lucia. Poet. Playwright. We can think of V.S. Naipaul, born in Trinidad. Author, writer, so many books, A House for Mr. Biswas. Although he was very critical of the Caribbean in a number of his books. We can think of Sir Arthur Lewis, economist. The Caribbean has produced great people, great artists, and we can think of them. Haiti, Dominican Republic. The Caribbean is a rich place for the arts to flourish. Why? Because of our
History, yeah, exactly.
Because of our history. Remember, you had in the Caribbean Sea all of these people fighting for a peace.
Yeah. All
The
different names.
French, the British,
The Spanish.
the Spanish, the Dutch,
Yeah. Yeah.
they were all here.
That is true. So must be something worthwhile.
Must be something worthwhile.
Must be in the water.
Yeah. You were going to say something.
In terms of the history, this again, you know that my thing is abstract art, but for some reason, and again, because I'm into the faith, and I go that way. I just go where if it leads me. That because of all my experience led me up to now bringing back our history, that same history, alive in St. Kitts. I don't know what it is, Mr. Williams, but St. Kitts, I've left St. Kitts, but St. Kitts never left me. I could, in the States, but my mind has always been saying, I used to come back like almost every year. So I was always in touch and I was contributing. But it's something else though, you know. I'm thankful that I'm able to do what I do, the gift that I've gotten, and I'm using it now to do something purposeful. And I think that's what really was my calling.
Right.
Because how I'm able to do it and the results that I see, and I know for posterity, they will outlast me now. So now, the youth that's growing up, they have something to see. Because remember all the old pictures, they are faded out, and a lot of them has been discarded. You can't. So for me to be able to bring them back, it's a privilege and an honor, and I just do what the Father.
Right.
wants
Now,
me to do.
the arts is not a job. It's a lifestyle. That's what I think it is.
But look, but for me, it's a job, it's my work, it's my hobby, it's my life. And I'm privileged to be able to say that and experience that because I work teaching art. I come home and I do art for people ask me to do. I do it because I love doing it. And it seems like it's that part that excelled more than the other parts. But but all of their, you know,
Right.
they're the
So let's
almost
now, we
the same
speak
thing.
spoken so generally about the arts and so on. Now let's zooming on you. I want to know your background, your educational background. What drove you into the arts? When did you realize that you had this passion or this gift
For arts?
for the arts? But let us look at your educational background first. I know that you would have studied and all of that. You grew up here in St. Kitts. You went to school here. This is where you were socialized, and all of that. Later on, you went away and you went to university, and so on. But of course, you said your longing was always
St. Kitts.
St. Kitts.
St. Kitts.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background,
Okay.
where you grew up, and how you got involved in the arts.
I was born in Newtown, and I went to boys' school. At boys' school, I played cricket and football. It so happened that I was the captain at that time. Whenever I was so happy to make the team to represent boys' school, because boys' school was the boys' school. And when I left there, I went to senior school. Listen, Mr. William, I tried so hard to go to grammar school, but it wasn't working out. But again, God has a way of dealing with things, because you see, had I gone to grammar school, I may not have gotten in the window of opportunity to go to the States. Because I went to the States and I got to finish high school back in the States. I went to New York City Community College. When I did design draft. I went to do drafting because I just wanted to get into college. I went to do drafting, and when I got in there, I found out I was in this design drafting. So it was not just drawing, it was design. So you see, design started into play. When I left there, I went to City College, and I went to did industrial arts. When I got into industrial arts, I found out I was in the School of Education. I never thought of being a teacher, but now I'm being trained to be a teacher. Prior to that, I was working in the junior high school in New York City, so I was already into the school system. When I came back here, which was like I left in like 67. I came back here 81, and I started working at the government printery. There, I ended up to be the acting government printer. As a matter of fact, when I was involved in, and it was a kind of scary thing, when they had election, I was involved in printing the ballots and that whole thing, taking care of that thing, and so I got involved in that. When I left, I retired from the printery, and I was trying to get into my own little private thing, when I was called to come to teach at the college, because the person who was teaching art just abandoned. So I said, you know what, Michael, my friend, and I decided to do it. While I was in there, they found out my thing was education.
Yes.
And so therefore they asked me, why don't you want to work full time? And that up until now, that's where I am.
Yes.
For about 18 years I've been at that college. So, and in terms of being creative, I recognize that, because
Okay, so you're not only teaching, you are not only involved in theory, you are involved in the practice of art. Yes, some of us were very good at the theory,
yeah.
but when it comes to the practice, they say we're not there no way.
But I believe in doing, and when the students see that you're doing or what you have done, they're motivated to do, and that's a form of teaching. We can always tell them. Like, remember, I came back to the telling versus the doing. So that's it. I'm totally involved with the arts.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did you discover? That's what I want
to know when I discovered?
When did you discover? Because sometimes in life there's a point in our life when we discover something.
In class,
it's about a discovery.
I recognize that if you look at all the covers of my books when I was in class, they are doodles, they're designs, whether you're drawing the heart with the arrow going through it, or you're drawing whatever and color it, whatever. But I was always doing that, and I recognized at the same time when we were growing up. Remember, we didn't have the iMac and those tablets and stuff like that, so we had to find our own toys, and we had to make our own toys. You still have peer pressure, so your toy, whatever it is, has to look good. So let's talk about the top. Remember I just finished telling you about the spinners?
Yes.
The top.
Yes, I remember the top.
Yeah, top. So we had to go and cut the wood and you know, spear it down and set it up. And so your top look good. Or you can't come between the fellows with your top looking. So you started to develop certain skills. And then I recognized, even when I was going to school, that the technical subjects were my strongest subjects. So I knew that it was the, and then I went to college, and all my college thing was design. If I'm going to teach, we have to come up with designs to teach. So it was always design. That's why I'm able to design.
You've done some sculpting work.
I have.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it out of clay, and I've done it out of wood. I've also done it with metal. As a matter of fact, I have a friend in the States, and he went into cars, and I used to spend a lot of time in there, and I took some of the parts from the car, and I made a sculpture that's in his yard up until to this day, and that's over 30-something years. He says people have come try to steal it, but it's bolted down, you know. So there you go.
You know what to steal, what that would mean? You're stealing a person's creativity. You're stealing a person's ideas. That is why one's work must be protected.
That is
and
so true.
we talk about intellectual
Property rights,
which includes, of course, the work of artists.
You know, that subject. I'm just going to give you. I have a trademark. And the trademark is the black sand. That's my trademark. I had a little riff with, and you know, I just left it because it's been happening. I don't really want to interrupt their thing since it's gone that time. But what I don't like, though, Mr. Williams, is when they now, before it was black sand, Bangalang, and that's their thing. But they're having little spin-off of that, like, you know, black sand swimsuit. See the black sand? When you say black sand, could you spell it when you hear black sand? What do you hear? Black sand.
Black sand.
Yeah, but they spell with a D. Whether they spell in the D or not is black sand. So you understand? But we talk about intellectual property rights. That's what I'm talking about. So people have to be very careful when they, you know, research when you're going to come up with a name or whatever.
Yeah.
Research and see if this name is a legal name, but anything before you decide to do that. But that's I leave that alone.
Right, but it is an important thing. How do we protect? If we're going to speak about the arts, and if we're going to speak about originality, people's creativity, and all of that, it must be respected, and it must be protected. Those things must be protected. And if people are going to use other people's work,
ask permission.
Permission must be asked, and there must be acknowledgement.
I totally agree.
We know that.
I totally
It's the
agree.
very same thing. Of course, you're an educator, and you know that you just can't take somebody's work in an essay and just use it like that. And
No, you
it's
know,
what is called plagiarism. And
exactly.
people lose their jobs for that at universities and things like that, and get sued and so on for that. So that's an important part of really protecting a person's ideas and creativity and their intellect and all of that sort of a thing. Because when you sit down to paint something, tell me the process. What inspires you? There must be a process. There has to be some sort of a conceptualization of some idea.
Let me just show you the last thing that I worked on. Let me go back there.
Because it's the whole communication process taking place there.
I saw an old dilapidated picture of Alexander's birthplace. And I looked at it and I said, I like the form, I like the certain things I like about it, and I'm gonna start to work on that. And I started working on it, and I just keep going and going, and I just stopped, and I says, okay, I'm gonna attack it another day and really now finish. I've got it set up in a way that I'm comfortable, but I'm gonna finish it. But to come back to what motivates me, it has to be the Heavenly Father. I can't get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, He shows me what He wants me to do. Sometimes my abstract, the hardest thing to do is to start. Once you have started, then the mind starts to tell you where He wants you to go.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding certain principles of art, you follow that. Knowing that even when you're going to use colors, knowing that colors plays on your emotion, because colors has emotional values to them, just like lines do. Because you have a curved line, it shows grace. You have a triangle, it shows strength. You have vertical column, it shows support. So they all have emotional values to them. Even colors, you have a red color, it's hot. You feel hot. You want to show sadness, you may use a purple, or you want to show calmness, use blue. So when you're looking at a painting, you're not just looking at a painting of what you see visually, but you get into the aspects of it, like the colors and the stuff like that. There's a lot more about the painting.
Right.
But so again, I say it's God that motivates me to do the things that I do. I don't force it. That happen naturally.
How many years now have you been a painter? I know you said you've been a lecturer for about 18 years.
I don't really want to tell you how old I am, but
sculptor.
painter, about 40 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
It's a long time. Mr. Williams, in my age, I'm not saying that. So
That's almost my.
yeah. So, and that's what I'm telling you. This is the point that I reached. It's where I am now. It has taken me to this process. So now I'm showing you the development of these historical paintings that I've been doing.
So over the years, has your style,
Change?
your, whole art work change over the years? Are you the same place in terms of where you started
No.
to where you are now?
No, and then
Can you give us a sort of a,
I think when I started out, I wasn't using so much of the value system. A lot of my paintings were like flat. Understanding, because you see, I never went to learn to do visual arts. It's something that came, but I take that back. When I came back to St. Kitts, they had the Venezuelan Institute, and they used to give different lessons. You would have a professor that comes in to teach pencil drawing. You would have one comes in to teach pastel. You would have one comes in to teach pottery. And so it was a theoretical part of it and a practical part of it, but I had already done a lot of that because through my industrial arts courses, but it reinforced. So with these different mediums, I'll give you a little story about one of them. Pastel. The professor that came to teach pastel gave each one of us an assignment.
Yes.
And now we have, because it's something new, you have almost all the artists, recognized artists that come into this program too. So now it was challenging for me because I saw I'm into abstract. I'm having something that I have to draw from observation. I'm using a different medium now that I'm not too familiar with now, and I still have to compete because when you're finished, you have to present, and it's going to be an exhibition, and it's going to be a national exhibition. So I started to kind of withdraw, and I said, Dennis, no, you can't quit. You're an artist. Do what your father said. Do your best and leave the rest. That's all you can do. And I went through that, Mr. Williams. And that painting is a painting that gave me great recognition because that's the painting that Oprah Winfrey bought. So what I'm trying to say, if you quit, had I quit then, I would have never had that part. I would have never been on that journey.
So there were times when you were tempted to.
I was tempted, that particular course, because like I said to you, it's now something I have to draw from observation, and it's something that I have to use a medium that I'm foreign to. But that's what the Father wanted me to go,
Yes.
and you see where He took me. So again, some of the moral is that don't quit. Just give it your best shot and see where it takes you.
Yes. Now, you have contributed in numerous ways to national development. What have been some of your major accomplishments?
Okay, let me start with when I came back. I was just in time for independence. And working at the government printery, it allowed me to, it gave me the opportunity to design the official program cover, the church service cover, the national magazines cover, and in terms of sensitizing the public as to what the flag would look like, I was the one that actually color separated and printed it, and it was distributed to the magazines to show that. While I was also at the printery, I had the opportunity to design the Central Bank logo. That came by because there was a regional competition, and none of the entries was accepted. So Ricky Scarrett came to me at the printery and asked me to give it a shot. And my first presentation was accepted. It was then Cecil Jacobs, Sir Cecil Jacobs.
Yes.
He was the then governor. And so that was one of my things. I've also done the logo for tourism. I did the logo that is sported now for the cultural department. I was the one that designed that. I have to date, I have about 9 stamps that I already did. I've been involved in Carnival for so many years. I've been involved in the music festival.
You've been the design of costumes.
I've been designing the costumes. I've won in terms of bat suits and dresses, national dresses. I've won in those categories. Those are some of the things I've been involved in.
Now in doing my research, I realized that you appeared on Carib Scope and on CNN.
Yeah. CNN. I had a gallery up at Limo Building, and they came and they did a taping. And as a matter of fact, I was so proud when one of my friends told me that he was in Europe, and he turned on his TV to the only English speaking, and he saw me appear. He was amazed. And like I said, I've been on Carib Scope about twice. I've been in the Visitors magazine about twice. Exhibited overseas on behalf of the nation. I've won 2 competitions for the college, which was the 25th anniversary of independence and the Silver Jubilee on behalf of the college. Some of those are some of the things that I've done.
Your involvement in Carifesta.
In Carifesta, I did, when they had the backdrop, I designed and painted the backdrop. A little disappointed that I've never been to any of the Carifestas, but that was my experience in Carifesta.
Right.
And I think we need to, I recognize that we promote a lot of the performing arts when it comes to the Carifesta. I noticed they started to do the literary, but the visual arts are not there. And we need to be represented.
What about the culinary?
I don't think, I can't recall of anyone that went to represent us in that area.
Right. Now you're involved, of course, in the visual, more so in the visual arts, not so much the performing arts. But you're a musician.
Wait, let me get a little.
You're a musician, aren't you?
Let me tell you a little about the performing arts now. I had the privilege of playing in 2 Apollo theaters. Came here in 1972 with a group called the New Concept, which I was the bassist. We played at behind the pavilion, which was the Queen Show. We played in the Apollo Theater, and we played at Fairview. And we did make an impression, because there were 2 of us from St. Kitts that were action musicians. The other was the producers and stuff like that. And that was, there's a young lady called Stephanie Mills. She was the one that outdid us in the Apollo. They had to go around 3 times acts in the crowd, but then we didn't have nobody there, but they had. But even though we didn't have, we were that good that they had to go 3 times saying, and they finally gave it to her, and you see where she reached. She was a name. So we had the potential to be on there. And it was a very nice group. And as a matter of fact, I started singing with a friend of mine we had a band called Ashanti, and that was a nice band. I'm so sorry that it didn't work out. Then I have a personal friend of mine, which is Wango, and we have actually been the opening acts to many of the international artists that came to St. Kitts. Barry Simon, Bush Banton, you're talking about Third World, and you name it. I've had that experience. So, and I'm grateful. So, I had a well-rounded experience in the arts.
You've also appeared in several magazines.
Yeah.
Apart from appearing on TV, you've also appeared in several magazines. You care to tell us?
Well, the latest one was the CXC magazine, where I appeared with Kim Collins at an exhibition that they had, a traveling exhibition that CXC had on Port Zante. And Kim Collins' legacy, and I'm proud to have been as a part of that and have that as a part of my. The Visitors magazine I've appeared in about 2 I've been in a lot of newspapers, been featured in a lot of the local newspapers, and I'm still going at it, trying to figure out what else. But as I go along, I'll probably tell you.
Yes. How has the arts over the years helped you as a person to develop?
In terms of organizing, in terms of solution for problems, because we're always going to have problems, and you can find solutions to them by using your creativity. I have a thing that says, use what you got to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at a little show in, I think it was in Alaska, and what the people use there, living on the grid is what they call this thing, and they build the houses from the trees there, and they take the mud and they mix it up, and they and listen, mud, they call it mud, but it's basically clay, which we have a lot of that here too. And the way that they actually build a house, using what you have to get what you want. That's basically what I'm saying. Because if you were in desert, let's say that you're in the desert, You have to build whatever you're going to build out of sand.
That's correct.
You can't send away because you have to build what you want to build out of what you have there. So using what you got to get what you want, being creative.
Now, what are some of the stories that your paintings, your work, have told over the years?
My graphics, with my T-shirt, a lot of it reflects about St. Kitts. For example, one of them said like hooked on Sugar City. The other one, I would take it and turn St. Kitts into a ship, and it said smooth sailing. And it's always St. Kitts Carnival. It's always St. Kitts. I don't know what it is about the St. Kitts, but it's always St. Kitts when it comes to me. That's and okay now. When I'm using in terms of the historical paintings, when I'm doing them, Mr. Williams, it's like I'm taken back and I'm in that setting, because it's amazing to see. It's like the things have been revealed to me. It's like, say, here I am, this is what I am, do this. And when I see the finished product, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. And I would really love to show the general public what they are, because it's us. And I would really love for the parents to have at least have one of these things in the house, so they could refer to them in terms of the kids that's coming up, so we can maintain our past.
Yeah. How can people get access to your paintings?
Well, have
to buy to
yes. Well,
your
I'm going to be putting some of them in the museum, and then try to get them in places where people can have access to them. Because now, like I said, I'm now turning my paintings into postcards.
Now, we are going to be wrapping up this interview, but what are some of the feedback you have received over the years in terms of your art?
Positive. What I would really love to do, Mr. William, is to have an art school. We don't have one. Many people have asked me, it's inconvenient for me to teach in where I am. I have, I acquire a building that I would love to get help in terms of fixing the building, so that we can do something like that. Because again, come back to empowering the population. Again, we all are individuals and we have a lot to offer. If you give them direction and show them certain things and let them take it into their own niche, it will work. But I've been getting very nice feedback from the general public in terms of what I've been doing. They keep telling me I should I should make a book. That's one of the things that I want to do. Take these history paintings or pictures and turn them into a book. I want to spread it. I want everybody to have access to it. These things are not done for me personally. It's done for me. Okay, yeah. So I may get some money. The money thing is not my thing. There's a thing that says when the work is done, if it's done properly, money will come. But that's not my thing. My thing, first thing is to be able to do them and disseminate them and share them with the public.
Right. Now, this is off of your type of art, but you did mention at the beginning the importance of the arts to our tourism product.
Yeah.
The culinary arts is another form of the arts.
Very important too.
Extremely important to our tourism product.
You go to the restaurants and if it's not presented properly, you tend to lose your appetite.
That's right.
So the presentation is very important.
Right. Now, before we leave, I would ask you, what would you like people to remember about your artwork?
before, they knew that they could have looked at an abstract piece of work and said, that's the Dennis Richards. When someone was told, I have a piece now in the electricity department, which I'm fascinated about in terms of, I knew that there was the ice plant, and we tend to be losing them because even the pipes that were there to filter the water, they're gone. So I recreated that and put it in. When someone heard, because apparently it was shown on TV or something like that, that I did that, they said no. They said no, they don't know me to be doing those kind of things. They knew me doing abstract. But you see where the shift came in terms of the being realistic, in terms of redoing what has been there. So you get to see exactly, and I'm not, well, not exactly, because the clothing in terms of the coloring and the scheme, it's me. So I wasn't there at the time to know exactly what. So I get to do that, and that seems to be what's happening right now.
Okay. You have an art gallery.
I have.
Huh?
Well,
You had it?
I had an art gallery. This is what
Yes.
I'm telling you as well. Now, this same place where I tell you I like to do the school is where I would also like to put a gallery.
Okay.
Because it's not far from town, and it's an area where you can get parking and stuff, and it's a nice yard, and I think it would do well. And that's what I would like to leave. Something that says, because I've been fighting to have a gallery for a long time. I was afforded the opportunity by Miss So Llewellyn Moore. He saw my work. And
Yes.
he saw my work. The Taiwanese had something when they all, and I displayed all my work at Jackson. He said, Dennis, what are you doing with all that work we have? I said, I don't have. He said, come see me, and he gave me upstairs, and that's what. You see what happened? He gave me upstairs, and I was able to have that little thing where you could talk about the CNN on in Europe, and different, the different things I was able
Yes.
to accomplish from being there. But sometimes you have to let go things to receive. So I let go and I receive. I just need to fix that there, and so I can have a gallery again.
Okay.
So I'm asking for help.
I am sure you'll receive the help
Yeah.
that you so desire.
Yeah.
Okay. It has been a pleasure.
This is me too.
And I really want to thank you for coming and sharing with us in terms of what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
That is being an artist.
And that is.
And how you have contributed to our national development for over 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Beyond that, because I used to come back, when I used to come on holidays, I still used to be involved in Carnival by doing judging. So really, this year I judged almost all the shows except one, was the Calypso show.
Yes, that one I judged, and I think I was on one of the judging panels with you.
From the steel pans to the music came in.
Right.
Oh, and Mr. Williams had me now playing the fife.
You've learned to play that as
Yeah.
well. Absolutely amazing. Dennis, thank you so much.
Thank you too, Mr.
Okay, great.
Have a good.
I have been interviewing Mr. Dennis Richards, who is, first and foremost, a painter. He's also a sculptor, a graphic artist, and a musician. And we were talking about his invaluable contribution to our national development. I am Les Roy Williams. Until then, have a good time.